My name is Rodney Tulum, son of Arthur and Marjorie Tulum, owners/managers/CEOs of the Tulum Investment Group. And now Dad is running for governor of Connecticut. My folks treat me like I'm their pet, and never like a son. I was the accident that they never expected or wanted. They never knew I was gay, that is, until yesterday, when I kissed my new friend, Derrik, in front of them. Who is Derrik? A guy I met only days ago. Long blonde hair. He usually wears a white hoodie and black skinny jeans. I found myself falling for him the further we traveled together. And we've traveled a long ways together. Why'd he come with me? He needed some space from Ash, his stalker boyfriend. Derrik is pretending to be my boyfriend. And it worked. Because of him, I was able to come out to my controlling parents. That didn't go well. The only reason they wanted me around was so they could use me to pretend to be a happy, traditional family for Dad's campaign. Get this, they had even hired some girl to be my girlfriend. Now Derrik and I are up in Canada, visiting his parents. I'm dropping him off as well. Bedford Park, part of Toronto, is his home. Mine is on my bike, drifting from place to place. Derrik and I are sleeping in his bed, and nothing more. I love waking up next to him, but I'm no fool. The chance that he feels about me as I am beginning to feel about him is slim. Derrik has left a controlling boyfriend who won't let go. I should mention that Ash, the controlling boyfriend, is making the long-distance drive all the way from Dead Man's Butte down in Nevada up to Toronto, which is where we are at. Bedford Park, to be specific. Ash is 35 to Derrik's almost 22, and has made his way in the world as a stockbroker. Derrik's parents' place seemed okay, that is, until his dad woke us up saying, "We need to talk." It was mid-afternoon, and I was still tired. Driving all night will do that to you. Derrik and I got up and sat on the edge of his bed, somehow holding hands. We still kept up the pretext of being boyfriends, even though we weren't. Maybe Derrik's parents needed to see us as boyfriends as well. Set around us were mugs of steaming vanilla coffee, croissants, and beef stew. His parents were William and Sophie Fulmer. They had pulled in a couple of chairs and sat before us. "We've been doing a lot of thinking while you two slept," his dad said. "I'm sorry, Rodney, but you should know why we prefer Ash over you or any of the other men Derrik has dated." Derrik rubbed the bruise around his wrist and said, "It's not your choice, Dad." "We think it is," his mom said. "Because of Ash helping out with our retirement funds, we can retire this year and live comfortably for the rest of our lives." "Hire him then," Derrik said. "But who I fall in love with is none of your business. It's not working out between us." His dad looked at me, then at his son, and said, "I'm sure Rodney is a nice guy, but he has no roots, no job, no money. He can't offer you any stability. Ash can give you all of that." "I have a job," I protested. His mom gave me a patient smile and said, "I'm sure you do, but what kind of a life can you give our son? Living off the back of a motorcycle? Traveling from place to place? Motel to motel? Eating nothing but fast food all the time? What kind of a relationship is that?" What would they say if they knew I had money? If they knew who my parents were? For a moment I was tempted to tell them, but I thought better. I don't want anything to do with my parents, and I don't think they want much to do with me right now. "Would you like to see my job?" I asked, reaching for the saddlebags at the foot of the bed. My laptop rested inside. "I'm partner with an online collectible store," I said. Action figures, collectible coins, collectible cards, whatever. I run their website while my partner, his name is Moses, works on inventory and mailers. We have 5 people who work under us helping to ship everything and keep it all organized. As to money, we make enough to keep us all fed. I didn't mention that our employees were his wife, brother, and his parents, and a college friend of his brother's, and they worked out of the garage in Dead Man's Butte. That was one of the reasons I had gone to Dead Man's Butte. "Ma'am," I said, setting up the laptop and turning it on. "It's true. I like the open road. Sometimes my travels are random. Other times I visit specialty venues and conventions to see what the latest trends are. You'd be surprised at what I've discovered." I opened up the front page of our store. Moses and Rodney sell the world. "I'm not complicated," I said. "My name is Rodney Tullum. My parents live in Connecticut. As long as I have a web connection, I can work anywhere." His dad took a closer look and wrote some stuff on his hand. "That's nice, but I want Derrik to get a degree, settle down, make a family. Ash has the means to take care of him, and he has even offered." "Rodney, you can't do that," his mother said. "We'll never know where our boy is, whether in Canada or the States. You could even go down to Mexico. Ash has proven himself to us in many, many ways, and is better for our family. We don't even know you, except you run a website and ride a motorcycle." "That's me," I said. "What you see is what you get." Derrik kind of chuckled, then turned to me and said, "Why are our parents so quick to judge?" "We want better than a homeless drifter for our son," his mom said. "You want me to trade one daddy for another?" Derrik said. Though I didn't know much about him, I knew enough to unpack the bitter sarcasm in that tone. Did his parents realize how angry Derrik was getting? How can I diffuse this before it gets bad? Run. I closed the laptop and reached for a croissant. "I'll take one for the road. Derrik, you have my number?" "Ash and Derrik need time to patch up their relationship," his mom said. "Besides, our home is too big for the two of us, and we're putting it on the market. We're looking at a 3-bedroom condo with a nice view of the Humbar Bay Arch Bridge." "You can afford that?" Derrik asked. "Because Ash helped us with our retirement," his dad said. While they chatted, I opened my phone and found a motel nearby with reasonable rates. I've never been to Canada before. Time to check it out. I couldn't believe how disappointed I was. Not in Canada, but with Derrik's parents. I would miss riding with Derrik. I began putting my shoes on and packing my duffel. "Time to move on," I said. "Good luck with everything, Derrik." His parents relaxed a little. Derrik tensed. "Just a moment," he said, then wrapped his arms about me and quickly kissed me. This man knew how to kiss. Strong lips, the slight scrape of his stubbled chin, the gentle touch of his breath. I was in heaven and didn't want to let him go. "Wow," he said, letting me go. We fell into each other's eyes, and I fell even deeper in love. "Wow yourself," I whispered. "Give me 10 minutes," he said, "and I'll be right out." His parents had won. I was leaving. They hid their smiles, but not very well. I had put a lot of miles on my bike, a matte black Kawasaki Vulcan S with black saddlebags. My baby probably needed an oil change, definitely a fresh tank of gas, and a good wash. I stowed my gear, gave the bike a quick once-over, and checked my texts. 2 minutes later, Derrik came out wearing a long-sleeved green flannel shirt, his trademark white hoodie, and heavy jeans. He had his long blonde hair tied back in a braid. He carried a gym bag and a second bag filled with croissants. His mom trailed him, the oddest look on her face, like her favorite dog was about to run away. "Brought some food," Derrik said, "and there's this place that has really good Italian. Antonio's. I'll buy." "Deal," I said, putting my helmet on. "Stow your gear and we'll take off." Derrik quickly packed his stuff in the right saddlebag, then joined me on the bike, his arms wrapping about me. "You can't leave," his mom said. "What will I tell Ash?" Derrik shrugged and rubbed the bruise about his wrist. "I don't care. I'm through with him and never want to see him again." "But you're living your life on the back of a motorcycle," his mom yelled. You'll be poor. You won't go to college. When will we see you? Why are you leaving? You'll be homeless." "It's my life, Mom," Derrik said. "Tell Dad I said goodbye." "How dare you leave your family for a dumb biker?" she yelled. "You'll be sorry." I started the bike and we rode off. Once we're at the motel, Derrik made me look at him and quietly said, "I thought my parents would be different. Should have known better, and I'm sorry. I'd like it if I could keep riding with you. What say we tour Canada for a couple of weeks, then head south for the winter?" I leaned in halfway. He leaned in the rest. Once again, our kiss was, wow. "Do all parents interfere with their kids' lives?" he said. I sighed and said, "It's their job. Nobody is ever good enough. If I ever have a kid, I'm not going to be that way." After we dropped the saddlebags at our room, we rode through Toronto. Derrik showed me the sights before we stopped at a little Italian place called Antonio's. The menu boasted of over 30 different types of pasta sauce. Who knew there were so many? The waiter brought us fresh baked bread with olive oil and balsamic vinegar for dipping. I had the grilled salmon with the creamy garlic pesto and spaghetti primavera. Derrik ordered spaghetti with pork ragu and a grilled steak. To drink, we ordered a couple of mooseheads. That's Canadian beer, made in Canada. As we ate, Derrik's phone rang. I couldn't hear what they asked, but Derrik answered, "T-U-L-U-M. I chuckled. His parents must be Googling me. On a whim, I pulled out my phone and I Googled me. There must be 1,000,000 people with that same name. I typed in Connecticut. There I am. I must be famous. First entry. An article from a year ago titled, "Eligible Bachelors Who Happen to be Rich." And it showcased me as the heir to the Tulum fortune. It was a nice photo of me, but since I'm not playing my parents' games, I doubt I'm their heir now. Second entry. A page from the Tulum Investment Group's page about the Tulum family, including an old family photo with middle school me in it. When was the last time they updated that page? Third entry. This one was dated today, titled, "The Fall from the Top." Arthur Tulum, one of the richest men in Connecticut, if not the East Coast, kicks out his gay son, Rodney, and Rodney's boyfriend, Derrik. And it has been learned that Arthur Tulum has done little to support any LGBTQ issues. How will this affect his campaign? This time I rolled my eyes. I think Dad might have just offended a voting bloc. Sybil had been right. This had evolved into a firestorm. Silence. Then Derrik said, "So what if he likes to travel?" I barely heard a little shrieking through the phone, saying, "But he's a homeless biker who doesn't have enough brains to finish school, blah, blah, blah." Another pause with the barely heard mumble of his parents coming through the phone. "Keep your voice down," Derrik said. "I know enough about him to trust him. He's fun to talk to." Another pause. "Mom, he does have a family. They live in Connecticut," Derrik said, a little too loudly. Another pause. "I don't care how far the sociopath drove," Derrik said. More silence. Derrik rolled his eyes. "No, better living with a stranger on a bike than living with Ash. Goodbye." More faint words. Then Derrik said, "I'm busy. Fine, I'll ask him." Derrik leaned over and said, "My parents want to talk to us tonight." "Not tonight," I said. "I'm exhausted. You're exhausted. Besides, they already made it clear they don't approve of a poor, itinerant, homeless biker who's fallen in love with their perfect little man." Oh, crap. What had I just admitted to? Had I just told Derrik I loved him? I must be more tired than I thought. He'd think I was a creep. Maybe he didn't notice? "Point taken," Derrik said. "I'm not perfect. Wait, did you just say you loved me?" Crap and double crap. He did notice. His parents had been on the phone and heard everything. I shrugged and tried to give an innocent look. "Call you back tomorrow," Derrik said, and ended the call. Oh, crap. What do I say? We barely know each other. Derrik looked at me, a long, intense puppy dog look that melted my heart and my mind and everything else about me. Did you mean it? He said. I could do nothing but nod. He'd think me a creeper, a stalker, a traveling sociopath on a bike. Nobody confessed love in so short a time. In the middle of the restaurant, in a country I've never visited before, in front of total strangers. Derrik shifted seats until he was next to me. We looked into each other's eyes, and I felt like I was swimming in his depths. He took a long breath and lightly caressed my cheek. Our kiss was light and sweet, and we smiled. The waiter set our plates before us and said, "There is a gentleman who requests the honor of joining you." "Who is it?" I asked. "He gave his name as Howie Street, and he brought his wife. He says he is an acquaintance you met in Connecticut," the waiter said. "Isn't that the reporter who works at Men's Quarterly?" Derrik asked. "We only met him for a minute. How did he find us?" I asked. "I don't know," Derrik said. "It's up to you." "Show him over," I said. A moment later, Howie Street showed up. A tall man dressed in gray, and though it was dusk outside, he wore stylishly tinted sunglasses. His wife wore faded jeans and a red snow jacket and had a brace on her leg. She had dark skin and light brown hair trimmed very short, not quite a buzz cut, and she sported large hoop earrings. The waiter showed them to our table and asked, "Can I bring you anything?" Howie assisted his wife into her seat, and she said, "A Pinot Noir, honey?" To which Howie replied, "A smoked scotch on the rocks, and get these boys a second of what they're drinking." "Will that be all?" "Caprese salad with chicken. Make it spicy," Howie said. His wife said, "Same for me. Please include these boys' meals on our tab as well. It's the least we can do for interrupting them." The waiter left. Howie took out a small gray chamois and polished his glasses. "Derrik, Rodney, it's good to see you again. This is my wife, Amber." "Nice to meet you," she said. "Don't mind the brace. Souvenir from a nasty ski accident. But if all goes well, I won't need it in a few months, and might even be able to snowboard come January. Oh, congratulations on your engagement. I want you to tell me all about the proposal. I love romance." "Thank you for the dinner, but you don't have to do that," I said, glancing at Derrik. The pretend boyfriend shtick could blow up in our faces, which I'm sure our parents would love. "We don't go out often as a couple," Howie said, "and meeting new friends along the way is a bonus." We nodded, and then Derrik asked, "I don't mean to be rude, but are you following us?" Howie grinned and replied, "No, and yes. No, I didn't mean to, and yes, I couldn't pass up the opportunity. You see, I'm from Toronto, and I was coming home to see my wife for a long-deserved rest. There was also a bike making the late-night drive as well. And then I realized it was you two. A lot has happened back in Connecticut." "Does it concern us?" I asked. "No, and yes," he said as the waiter returned with our drinks. Once he had left, Howie took out his phone, opened an app, and continued. "Did you know Mr. Wilson, your parents' butler, quit on the spot? It turns out his niece is living with a woman and recently informed her family about their intentions to marry." "Let's make this off the record, honey," Amber said. "We are taking the night for ourselves, and I don't think Rodney or Derrik would appreciate their news being spread all over the wire." Howie nodded, looked again at his phone, and turned it over, screen down. "The world won't hear it from me." "Thanks," I said. "Good for Mr. Wilson's niece," Derrik said. "But he quit? Tell us more." "Everybody heard you call Derrik your fiancé," Howie said. "After the press conference, it spread through the servants faster than I can type. Mr. Wilson felt your parents' treatment of you signified how they would treat any non-traditional lifestyle, and he wanted no part of it." A little shocked, I sipped my drink, a Corona, and asked, "So what's next?" "From what I've heard, Your father has been avoiding the LGBTQ issue for a long time, Amber said. Don't know if you heard, but it came out that you haven't been in that part of the woods for a year. So how could you have a girlfriend, especially when you arrive with a fiancé and announce you are gay? Your parents have a lot of questions to answer. That's not the worst of it, Howie said, leaning back a little so he could put his hand on Amber's. Mrs. Clements was fired. Mr. Wilson quit. What could be worse? Derrik asked. The voters aren't asking it yet, but you know they will. If your dad is lying about something so simple as you two, Amber said. I got what she was saying, so I said, what else is he lying about? Could this affect his campaign? Derrik said. Hard to say, Howie said. The rest of the evening was peaceful enough, and we enjoyed ourselves. As we ate, Derrik received 2 texts, quickly read them, and placed his phone on silent. I'd ask about them later. We ended the meal with the chocolate hazelnut crostata, an Italian dessert. True to their word, Howie and Amber covered our meal and drinks. Out in the parking lot, we traded numbers, and Amber said, let's do this again. Or if you need anything, we'll be here for a week before we drive south, going to Niagara for a week. We were heading back to our motel, taking the scenic route through downtown Toronto, and accidentally passed the Colpa Nouveau, an art gallery, and it was still open. Let's go, I said. Colpa Nouveau was a small ground-floor gallery in an old 5-story office building. It had 3 rooms, all painted a gentle gray, with overhead track lights. The owner/curator of the collection was a 70-year-old woman with long gray hair held back with a gold and pink flowered headband, and she wore a knee-length tie-dye dress. Turns out it was opening night for a new exhibit by noted Canadian artist Russell Sheehan. His work was mostly with acrylics, and his favorite subject matter involved florals and portraits, and the gallery showcased 24 of them. Several already had a tag on them that said, sold. They served a soft white wine and various hard cheeses. We paused in front of one painting, a painting of red chrysanthemums with multicolored shadows. Behind the flowers was the portrait of a shirtless, ethereal man with glasses and a stubble chin, and one edge of his mouth had an upturned smirk. He held a shot glass filled with the red liquid that matched the flowers. The title was One for the Road. I don't know why this painting spoke to me. I didn't recognize the man, only the flowers. What do you feel when you look at it? A strange man asked. He wore a casual black button-down shirt and black slacks and black loafers. Derrik put his arm about me and said, Love. Look at the detail and emotion. I nodded and said, It's almost like realizing what you have today can be gone tomorrow. Everybody gets that idea. It's opposite that, he said. Are you the artist? Derrik asked. He smiled and said, I'm Russell, and that painting is about my boyfriend. Believe it or not, 10 years ago I met him in the hospital. The painting represents how fast we fell in love. People say love at first sight can't happen. We met, knew each other a week. Then I went on a college trip to Europe to tour some of their galleries for a couple of weeks. I called him every night, and when we got back together, we knew we were meant for each other and got married. I noticed the gold band on Russell's finger. So did Derrik. Russell showed us around many of the paintings, telling us the stories behind each one. A man joined us, but we knew him already. His portrait had been with the red chrysanthemums. He also wore a gold band. Russell introduced him as his husband, Cole. We chatted for a few minutes, then they left to speak with the other guests. The bitterness threatened to break open. Why can't I have what Russell and Cole have with each other? Or what Howie and Amber have? Or what Moses has, with his family helping him with the web store? Love. With Mom and Dad, I felt isolated. The loneliness often filled me. I'd felt it many, many times. Bitter, angry, sullen. The old depression was knocking on my door. I've known you long enough to tell when something is bothering you, Derrik whispered. Out with it. We paused before a painting of a small cottage surrounded with thousands of flowers, a wishing well, and a man leaning over the well. It was as detailed as all of Russell's other work, including the almost invisible wedding ring on the man's finger. It was called Happy Ever After. He's painted coal again, I said. No changing subjects, Derrik said. I keep asking myself if it was worth it, I softly said. What do you mean? Derrik asked. I swallowed, thinking of the best way to say the jumble of emotions clogging my head. Coming out, I said. Maybe I wanted to shock my parents, or maybe I was tired of hiding, or maybe I thought my parents would finally accept me for me. But telling the truth to Mom and Dad may have cost Dad the election and ruined their lives. Maybe I should have just played along. As they keep saying, they know best. Maybe your parents are right. I'm just a dumb biker. Mommy and Daddy know best for Mommy and Daddy, Derrik said. You are the expert on you. You know what's best for you. What do you mean? I asked. Derrik stepped in front of me, forcing eye contact by taking hold of my cheeks and making me look at him. You are not responsible for your parents' happiness. You are only responsible for yours. My parents don't know your story. Your mom and dad are living in a fantasy land, making everybody live a lie. Who cares what they think? Not us, not you. You showed them that you are a person with his own life and his own dreams. If they can't handle it, then they've lost the opportunity to know somebody fantastic. His words rang true on some deep level. Derrik suddenly became very vulnerable, as he admitted, You've been fighting depression as well? I gave a simple, single nod. I've been there, Derrik said. Back in high school, most of the kids didn't care I was gay. However, there was a group that thought it fun to make fun of me because I was different. It made me feel helpless, useless, like I didn't matter. One of the new counselors saw what was going on, called me into her office, and we spoke about it. I spoke with her weekly for the rest of the year. She was transferred after that. I went through it again when I thought I was trapped with Ash. Maybe I don't know the particulars about your life, but I know what you're feeling, because I felt it too. What happened with the high school guys? I said. Live, Derrik said. One got expelled for drugs, another got in trouble for shoplifting and left, and the third was so afraid of getting expelled that he straightened up and left me alone. Karma, I said. We hugged each other and suddenly we spoke about things I've never spoken with to anyone. We opened up, sharing our souls with each other. We went back to the motel, changed into something comfortable, when Derrik's phone rang. It's Mom, Derrik said. She's requesting a video chat. Derrik set the phone up so we could include both of us, and a minute later we FaceTimed with his parents. Another man was there as well, well-dressed and well-groomed. He looked like one of the power gays from Hollywood. All three seemed surprised to see me. Derrik tensed. That must be Ash. What had Derrik said? Ash was 35 to his almost 22? Mom, Dad, Ash, Derrik said. His hand gripped mine like he was drowning. We want to talk to you without Rodney around, his dad said. Derrik whispered, What do I do? Same advice you gave me. Show some spine and have some fun, I whispered back. Rodney, leave, his dad ordered. Then he stared at something on his phone rather than us. I glared at him and said, Not a chance as long as that piece of crap is around. Time you started showing Derrik a little respect. He's not a little boy. This is family business, his mom said. We don't need you around. Live with it, Derrik said. I will give you 2 minutes to tell me why I should stay with a jerk like Ash. Because you love me, Ash said. Used to, Derrik said. then held up his lower arm to show the bruise. "You were being unreasonable, and I had to try and calm you down," Ash said. "It was an accident." His parents didn't comment on it. Didn't they see the bruise? Maybe it seemed minor to them, but it was earth-shattering to Derrik. "Why would Derrik want to come back to you?" I asked. "I was paying for Derrik's schooling," Ash said. "So what?" I said. "I have given Ash freedom to be who he is." "Honey," his mom said to Derrik's dad, "say something." Derrik's dad seemed to have dropped out of the discussion, and his eyes narrowed as he focused intently on his phone. "Ash paid Derrik's room and board because Derrik doesn't have a job," his mom said. "Are you going to feed him from the back of your bike? How much money do you make from that little toy store?" "Those are collectibles, Mom," Derrik said. I ignored what his mom had said and replied, "I can show Derrik the world. If he wants, he can help me with the store. Moses, that's my partner, wouldn't mind another employee to help with all the computer work." "I can give Derrik a home," Ash said. "You can't." "I gave Derrik independence and love," I said. "I love Derrik," Ash said. Derrik's dad's eyes left the screen and narrowed in on me. His face drained of color. Had he realized who I was? "Ash, you don't love me." Suddenly Derrik was shouting. "I will never live with you again. Living with you is hell. If I didn't do what you said, you threatened to cancel paying for my college, or canceled my allowance, or just whenever you got mad you used money as a weapon. Go find some other idiot to bully, because I never want to see you again. If Mom and Dad side with you, I never want to see them again either." "You don't mean that," his mom said. "Ash can take care of you. Look at what he's done for us. He's one of the family." "Your parents remind me of my parents," I muttered, "only looking out for themselves." "It's all about money with you, Mom, never about me," Derrik said, leaning forward to end the call. Before he did, I looked at Derrik and quietly said, "What can I offer you that Ash can't, and your parents refuse to do? I can protect you from the creeps of the world. If Ash ever hurts you again, I'll punch him so hard his eyes will land in Australia. Let's leave Toronto first thing tomorrow morning." "There's nothing left for me here. Goodbye, Mom and Dad," Derrik yelled. "We won't be inviting you to the wedding." Ash sputtered and said, "Rodney, are you threatening me, you Neanderthal?" "Derrik, you will not marry that dirt-poor homeless bum," his mom shrieked. "What? Wait, stop," his dad started to say as Derrik closed the connection. Derrik's phone rang and rang and rang, and Derrik turned it off. "Wedding?" I asked. Derrik shrugged. "Better you than anybody else I've met, if you don't mind me traveling with you." I didn't know whether he was sarcastic or serious, so I ignored the comment. We lay in bed talking for an hour before drifting away from the realms of consciousness. We were awakened about 7 by my phone. It was Amber. "Turn on the news, quick. It's up next. You're famous." We turned the TV on, waited for a commercial to end, and then an American flag and a picture of my dad striking some campaign pose. I can't believe this. Usually we tell about rags to riches, and rarely about U.S. politics, but this time it's riches to rags, and it is all U.S. politics, an announcer said. In Connecticut, the front-runner candidate for governor, Arthur Tullum, is in danger of losing support. Recently it was learned that Arthur Tullum hid the fact his son, Rodney, was gay and had a fiancée, who sources say is named Derrik. The couple was kicked off of Tullum's property. Several major campaign supporters dropped Mr. Tullum. Whether they abandoned Mr. Tullum due to LGBTQ issues or the fact Tullum had lied is not known at this time. In the background, a large image of me and Derrik put on our helmets and then rode away on my Kawasaki. The photographer must have been pretty good and pretty sneaky to get close enough to get that shot. The story wasn't exactly accurate, but I'm glad we got out of there. A small part of me felt guilty. A more or less current picture of me, Dad, and Mom appeared before the announcer continued. Will these revelations affect Tullum's campaign? The candidate was unavailable for comment, and his son, Rodney, fled for parts unknown and is unavailable for comment. More on this developing story as we learn it. Dad's campaign was about to hemorrhage money and voters. You're thinking deep thoughts again, Derrik said, rubbing my shoulders. Remember, they did this themselves, not you. I feel responsible and guilty, I said. Your mom and dad invited you home and then ambushed you with reporters and a fake life, and you feel guilty? Derrik said. I shook my head and said, stupid, right? No, he said, we still love our parents in spite of what they've done. Have you ever been to Banff National Park? The mountains there have got to be the most amazing things you've ever seen. You've been there? I asked. Long time ago, he said. It's 2,100 miles or so from here, and we can stop and see all the sights. As long as I have an internet connection, I'm good, I said. While Derrik took a shower, I pulled up Moses and Rodney Sell the World, our website. Moses had left me several messages, and an advance listing for next year's line of fully posable action figures, with promo photos. That would take a couple of days to make all the individual pages. He also told me about an odd email which he forwarded to me. It came from Derrik's parents. Derrik, Rodney, we are sorry we offended you. We didn't think you were serious, but I guess we were wrong. Marriage is a big step and forced us to reconsider everything. Don't cut us out of your lives. We were only trying to protect our son. Please call us. Maybe we can do lunch before you leave? Derrik stood behind me, a towel over his wet, long blonde hair, and read the email over my shoulder. What do you think? Do you believe them? He asked. At least they recognize that I have a job, I said, half smiling. Your call. Let's go to the Eaton Center for lunch, he said, drying his hair. You'll love the place. And I did. Big was an understatement. Bright and airy, the mall had multiple levels, a food court, over 200 stores, and a vaulted skylight roof that covered the whole ceiling, from one end of the mall to the other. From the impossibly large skylight hung 2 or 3 dozen Canadian wild geese sculptures, as if they flew through the mall. We had arrived early to look around. I excused myself for a few minutes to find a restroom, and Derrik said he needed a minute to look around. I stopped at a bookstore and spotted an American paper with the headlines, When is the Truth Not the Truth? An interview with Governor candidate Arthur Tullum. I paused and read the article. Dad's team was in full damage control. I found the bathroom and texted Derrik. He was at the other end of the mall at a store called McMinnon's Gear. I started walking. It took a few minutes, and I found Derrik looking at some shirts in various colors and styles, with his white hood up. He very shyly looked at me and removed the hood. What do you think? His long blonde hair was now trimmed very short, and very styled, and really cute. I grabbed a hold of his cheeks and quickly kissed him. You look sexy as hell. Why did you cut your hair, though? I asked. He shrugged and said, Time for a change, and this way I don't have helmet hair all the time. I smiled and asked, You still want to travel with me? Best proposal I've ever had. I do, he said, and we hugged. Derrik handed me a little box and said, Open it. I was going to surprise you at lunch, but now is a better time. I know we've only known each other a few days, but those days have been incredible. Let's make it official. I'm happy when I'm with you, even if it's on your bike roaming Canada or America. Waking up next to you fulfills me. Kissing you is a dream. I've loved you that first time we danced at the steakhouse. I know it's sudden, and you can say no if you need to. My heart stopped. Was he saying what I think he was saying? The box contained 2 simple gold bands. You've changed my life, he said. Maybe you didn't realize it, but you rescued me. I didn't know what I was going to do. I saw no other options than going back to Ash. You gave me another option, and I love you." Something warm filled my eyes. He took my hand and tenderly slid a ring on my finger. I took the other and put it on his. "Hey, it's okay," he said. His hand brushed against my cheek and his thumb lightly wiped the wetness below my eye. I held him close, savoring the warmth, the emotion, the love. His hug was tight, and joy bloomed within me. I swear I could fly right now. "What do you say?" he asked. "We don't have to get married right away, so we could take time to get to know each other?" His voice was so soft, so gentle, so intimate. Even though the mall was crowded, it felt like we were the only two people here. It had only been a few days, yet what I felt was more than I felt for another person. "I love you, too," I whispered back. "I do." We had a moment, a kiss, a sharing of love. "Are you Rodney Tolan, the son of that guy from America?" some random girl said. Another girl nearly shouted when she said, "That's Derrik, they're the ones on the news." "Can we get a selfie?" the first girl asked. We posed for the selfies with them, and then it was time to meet his folks. His parents waited for us in the food court. Fortunately, they came alone. No sign of Ash. What puzzled me was the bouquet they handed to Derrik, filled with golden carnations and white roses, and the usual greenery in a handheld bouquet. "For you," his mom said. She avoided looking at me. The look Derrik gave me said it all. It was as if he asked, "How are we going to carry that on the bike?" Something about this set me on edge. Good thing we'd ride out of town in 30 minutes. 5 minutes after we picked up our food and sat down, a chimichanga for me, one for Derrik, 2 large slices of Meat Lover's pizza for his dad, and a large chicken bacon wrap for his mom. Ash did show up. He wore brand new jeans, a crisp new Golden Eagles hockey shirt, a Golden Eagles baseball cap, a stylish gray jacket, and oozed charm from his wide smile to his shiny leather penny loafers. That's not all. He carried a ring box. Derrik almost too casually picked up his chimichanga with his left hand, as if to show off his ring. Ash snorted. Derrik's mom sat back in triumph. Derrik's dad merely folded his arms. "Derrik, honey," his mom said, "why don't you give Ash the flowers you brought for him?" "Oh, brother." I kept quiet because if I spoke, the annoyance I felt would turn to anger. Better that Derrik take the lead. "Rodney," Derrik said, "let's leave." He began wrapping up his chimichanga. I followed his lead and wrapped up my chimichanga. "Rodney, give us 5 minutes," his dad said. "Ash is the only man for our son, and when you hear what we have to say, you'll dump him on the spot." "Why's that?" I took Derrik's hand with my left hand, showing off my wedding ring as well. Ash spoke, this time a confident, smug look on his face, and he said, "We know you're Rodney Tolan, heir to the Tolan fortune. It's huge, as in by a country kind of huge. We don't blame you for that. Some people are born filthy rich, while the rest of us have to work for it." "What do you blame me for, exactly?" I asked. "Being so naive that you don't see people for who they are," his mom said. "Meaning?" I asked. "Derrik targeted you for your money," Ash said. "He somehow knew who you were and how rich you are. None of us could believe it when we realized who you are. He's using you," his mom said. "Can you think of any other reason why a poor man like him would ever associate with someone of your class?" "Think about it," his dad said. "Derrik doesn't have a job, so he'll be freeloading off you for as long as you allow it." "Mom, Dad, don't do this," Derrik said. "It's for your own good," Ash said. If what you're saying is true, I said, why say something now? His mom gave me a sweet smile and said, Derrik needs to face reality and come home. He needs to return to college, for which Ash is more than willing to pay for, and return to us. Since my son has been with you, his dad added, he's changed, and not for the better. He doesn't listen to us, spouts off ideas that are completely foreign to what he never used to say. Besides, someday you'll grow tired of him and then cast him aside. We're only trying to protect his heart, Ash said. I'll take care of him, marry him, and give him everything he needs. I thought for a moment, considering these people. I glanced at Derrik. My new friend or boyfriend or fiancé needed help, but I needed answer to one question. Derrik, I said, is any of what these people have said true? Derrik tried to smile, but failed. He gripped my hand. His hand was arctic. His face reddened, and he finally said, I didn't even know you when we first met. How could I? I didn't even realize you were rich until I met your parents. I fell in love with you before that. You could be broke. I don't care. I never cared about your money, only about the freedom you gave me. You showed me kindness and love and saved me from a nightmare. Nightmare? I was good to you, Ash said, and I am willing to take you back, even though you've caused a lot of trouble. I'll even increase your allowance. Derrik, you don't know a good man when you see it, his dad said. Look at all he's done for the family. Will Rodney give you an allowance? What will he offer us? Derrik pleaded at me with his eyes and then looked at the ground. Is that all I am? A pawn in a bidding war? My heart broke, because I knew what I needed to do. I've come to a decision, I said. Derrik withdrew his hand from mine, suddenly, very afraid. He looked down. It's settled, his mom crowed. Get your things, Derrik. You're coming home. No, Derrik said. After a week's stay here in Canada, Ash said, we're going back to Nevada, where we belong. You're an abusive jerk. It doesn't matter what my parents say. I'm never living with you again, Derrik said, almost screaming. And then, in a much calmer tone, added, Rodney, please, your money had nothing to do with it. I love you. Derrik avoided looking at anybody, his shoulders tense. Was that a tear drizzling down his cheek? He reminded me of a deer about to bolt from a hunter. Terrified, alone, lost. Derrik, I said, gripping his hand. I know I should have consulted you first, but we're having chimichangas at our wedding. Man, those are good. I remember my grandma could make the best. Shredded beef, shredded pork, even vegetarian. Her salsa was always made fresh with tomatoes, ancho peppers, and onions from her garlic, and you wouldn't believe how good her guacamole is. What? Ash said. You can't mean, his mom said. You'll still take Derrik? His dad blurted out. You mean? The innocent look of joy on his face made my heart leap. Loving Derrik was the right decision. You know, I said, fresh cilantro is the best. This party is over. We have a lot of miles ahead of us, so say goodbye to your folks. His dad slapped the table and rose. I forbid it. Derrik actually laughed, and then he took my arm. Bye, Mom. Bye, Dad. See you whenever I'm back in Toronto. Unless they come to our wedding, I said. How does New Mexico sound? I haven't seen my grandparents in ages. But first, Banff National Park, Derrik said. It happened fast. Too fast. Ash pulled out an 8-inch commando knife, the kind with individual finger grips and a black stainless steel blade, and aimed it at me. Wow, I guess he collects other things than hockey stuff. Derrik screamed, no, and slipped. He fell to the floor. Rodney, I love Derrik more than you do, Ash screamed. Derrik, get over here. His parents didn't move. Stunned, I guessed. The rest of the crowd freaked. introduce a knife into any gathering and people panic. Even me. But I didn't move. One advantage of growing up with my filthy rich parents were all the self-defense classes. They did something right at least. Ash was 10 feet away from me, a little too far. People scrambled from the area. "Get behind me, Derrik," I ordered. Derrik began crawling towards me. I needed to make Ash focus on me, so I took a step forward. It worked. Ash's eyes were glued to mine. "Put the knife down," I said, and took another step. Derrik scrambled behind me. I was about to attempt something stupid. Ash made one mistake. He took a step towards me and yelled, "Derrik owes me because I'm the one who took care of him. I'm the one who made his parents rich. I'm the one he loves." Perfect distance. I simply yelled, "Catch!" and tossed my chimichanga at the jerk's face. He tried to catch it, giving me the opportunity I needed. I spun around and with the power of a crescent kick, kicked the knife out of his hand. It flew a dozen feet, spinning as it came to a stop. I next swept his feet out from under him, and he fell, hard, on his back. I landed on top of him, pinning him to the ground. I only had one thought. What a waste of a good chimichanga. Mall security arrived shortly, followed by the police. We were questioned at the station for a couple of hours and then released. Ash wasn't released. Outside the station, Derrik's dad asked, "Do you want to come over to our place? Maybe spend the night and we can talk?" "Maybe next time we come this way," Derrik said. "Rodney, I agree. Chimichangas would be perfect for our wedding." I leaned in and deeply kissed him. Derrik closed his eyes. After a moment, he opened them. "Wow," he said. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I appreciate it. And thank you for all the prayers and well wishes and concern and love for me being gone for so long. I appreciate that even more. Thank you very much. I'm doing better this week than I was last week. It's good being up and making videos and recording and writing again. I'm loving it. And I wouldn't be able to be this far without all of you. I appreciate you. Thank you so very, very much. Until next time, thank you. Peace.